You're legendary friends.
Legendary.
45 years.
46 years.
45.
No, we met at 8.
Yeah.
54.
Oh, excuse me. No,
Okay.
I'm not 54. I had some beer at the party in 8th grade. The first person I called was Becca. And I said, can you meet me at the gate?
Our gate.
I need help.
She called me during a time when we weren't really hanging out or talking.
Well, you knew you could trust her.
Oh, yes, 100%. Wasn't
Yeah.
even a question.
So you had this foundational friendship that did take care of each other from an early age, and you could depend on it when stuff went wrong.
We fall down, but we get up.
Welcome back to Hometown Friends, the podcast that explores our most foundational friendships, the ones that help shape our social development from the places we call home. These are the friendships that often lead to the stories that define our lives. I'm your host, Chandler Hoffman, and on this episode, we talk to a duo that has been friends for over 45 years. Becca and Jana grew up on the same street in the same neighborhood and attended a small private school together where they and their families developed a deep and loving friendship. In this episode, we cover topics including the ways children grow and change throughout the life cycle, the psychological attachments that childhood friends develop with each other, and how this replicates the process that children have with their caregivers. We discuss the identity formation of adolescent development and the wonderful ways that hometown friends are formed with a shared sense of place identity. I hope you enjoy this episode, and if you do, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share, and please leave a comment at the end. Welcome, Jana and Becca.
Hi. Hi.
Welcome to the Hometown Friends podcast.
Thank you.
It's great to see you guys.
Thanks for having us.
You're legendary friends.
Legendary.
And as a psychologist, I love the idea of talking to people about their friendships. I love talking about my friendships. And so I hope today we get a chance to cover a lot of things with you, but specifically your friendship and your friendships with your hometown friends. Tell us about yourselves, you guys.
I am Becca Foote. Well, everyone from Berkeley knows me as Becca Foote. And Jana Cooper Morse. And we have been friends for 46 years?
45 years.
46 years.
45.
No, we met at 8. Age 8, right?
Yeah?
Yeah. That's we're
Yeah.
54. Jana?
No, oh, excuse me. No,
Okay.
I'm not 54.
Jana?
I am 53.
Okay.
Becca is older.
Yeah. That's,
Okay.
as,
Going on
Becca's
46
older?
years. Oh, yes.
yes.
Definitely.
She never lets me forget. I'm 3 months older.
That's hilarious.
We grew up on Forest Avenue in Berkeley on the same street.
Southside.
Southside Berkeley. And as I remember, we were just fast friends. We were pretty inseparable almost immediately. And we also had younger brothers who were the same age, who became friends.
They were best friends growing up as well.
Our brothers were very close, still are friends. Our parents were the exact same ages, and our parents became fast friends. So we were truly family friends. Forest Avenue is divided by a gate. I don't know, that's sort of halfway through. So
Yeah.
I remember we would meet at the gate. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We'd meet at the gate.
Yes.
And then we would decide to go to one of our houses. But I think we slept over at each other's houses pretty much every Saturday night. She was at my house for dinner. I was at her house for a dinner.
Yeah, I remember your dad always made chicken and rice, which sounds really boring, but he really made it.
It was
good.
good.
Delicious. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I don't know
Really?
why.
Chicken, rice, and peas.
Not only did you belong to each other's sort of families, but you lived on the same street. So there was like a sense of identification of living on the same street and going to the same school. When I gave you the survey for the podcast, you both rated Berkeley as very important and liking it a lot. I think I provided a Likert scale for you guys, and you rated it, I think, pretty highly. Maybe even it was a 7, 1 to 7 scale. And I think how much do you like your hometown, and do you think your hometown affects your friendships? And you both rated that extremely high. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, funny, I was driving here, And my 25-year-old called me, and she's like, "Oh, you're going to Becca's house? Are you going to sleep over?" And I said, "Yeah, we're doing this podcast," which I told her a little bit about before.
Uh-huh.
She goes, "What exactly is the podcast about?" And I said, "It's called Hometown Friends. It's about Berkeley friendships." She goes, "Oh my gosh, Mom, does this mean you get to like talk all about your Berkeley stories? You're going to be in heaven." And
Nice.
I realized in that moment that that without even realizing it, I've clearly impressed upon my kids where I come from.
Yeah.
Because where I raised them now or where I raised them is very different to Berkeley. And I guess I had a sense of um, appreciation for where I grew up once I saw where I was raising them.
Yeah.
And wanted to make sure that they knew what Berkeley was about. And so there's like all sorts of running jokes. Like if I try to bust out the Running Man when certain music comes on, then they're like, "Oh God, Mom's doing her Berkeley moves." And then
I want
or
to see that. Can you bust out the Running Man right now for us, Jana? Come on. Give us a little Running Man. That would
Give me
be
a couple of
awesome.
shots.
That
Give me a
was
couple
big.
of shots and I'll do it in person.
Did you know each other from Forest Avenue first and then like know that you were going to school
I think
together?
so. I was on the lower part of the street right across from Emerson Elementary School, and Jana was at the very top of the block. So we actually didn't meet until she came to Black Pine Circle, which was the elementary school I was at. I think it was fourth grade.
Right. So we must have met actually before that because
Maybe.
8 is like
Oh, yeah.
third grade. So maybe we knew I was going there.
Maybe. So when we found out Jana was coming to this very small little private school, Black Pine Circle, we got introduced. Why did we become friends? Beside, we were the same
Yeah.
age and obviously going to the same school. But I think the reason we became
Yeah.
such good friends, the reason why we were drawn together, I've thought about this, is that we both were, I think we had a lot of similar interests. Like we were very interested in kids. We were the neighborhood babysitters at young ages.
Very young.
Very young.
Wow.
And we both had the families that we liked to babysit.
Who were both on Forest. One was a house away from me and one was a couple of houses away from you. And all 4 families were friends. Like our parents were friends with them.
Yeah. And I think we
So-
we were generally, we were good kids, but we definitely were also we had a mischievous streak, sort of a covert
Aha.
mischievous streak where we were both very curious about people and reactions and,
More so you than me.
well, okay, but I did become a psychologist, but we were also very creative. We created a lot of fun, a lot of games. We were very imaginative. I feel like there was never a dull moment.
No, we did get suspended.
We did get suspended.
Whoa.
It's so bad. It's really bad. We've made up for it in our lives. I'm just going to say that right now.
Story was that we went on a field trip to Yosemite
for like a week or something.
I don't know how long it was, but we were
in the high camp
friends with a girl who was even more mischievous than we were, and concocted a prank it was very mean, but it was putting.
No, but we were all.
Well, okay. Let's own this. All right. So, okay, let's own it. Okay, we all concocted this prank. I really still don't want to take responsibility for this, clearly, of putting snow in another girl's sleeping bag.
A down sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Thought that would be
funny.
Snowballs in this girl's sleeping bag.
So not only is that, by today's standard, bullying. Well, yeah, because we singled out a girl. We did. Doesn't feel good. Yeah. Right? No, not only is that terrible, but she had no sleeping bag to sleep in. Because it was wet.
And then when it was discovered that the girl who actually put the snow in the sleeping bag was caught.
Okay,
and then
but we put her up to it, Becca.
I know, but I'm saying, and then they asked us, were we part of it or did we know who did it? And we said no. We lied, said we didn't know who did it, and we weren't part of it. And of course, all of it came to light eventually. And we were suspended, I think, for one day. And
this is the best part, actually. This is the part I remember because it involved food from Derby.
Yes, it did.
And our parents were just like, "Oh, this is totally over the top. You shouldn't have been suspended." Which is funny because I don't think our parents were. They definitely had some standards and they were definitely strict, but for whatever reason, I think they were over the school at this point as well. There were problems with the school, and so I think they decided to blame it on the school, not us. And we totally took advantage of. Plus, I'm sure we went home and said, "You wouldn't believe." We probably lied and manipulated the hell out of them.
Wow.
And then they just said, "Well, enjoy your day. We're going to work." And we watched soap operas all day and ate crap and thought it was the best day ever and had no repercussions whatsoever.
But the biggest thing that happened after that was Jana ended up leaving the school. Not immediately after, but again, she transferred to Willard for 8th, and I was left in this school with 13 other kids.
That's a big deal. And one of the things I love about middle school is like the amazing identification. It's like really the beginning of this individual identification. Like, who are we? What are we going to be? Who are we identifying with? Who are the people we're identifying with? What are we all about? We start to take so many risks and we expand our version of ourselves.
And this was the beginning of what I call sort of our breakup or the rift that happened, which was, don't you think that's probably what triggered it?
It sounds like you felt kind of abandoned there, Becca, that she was leaving and that you were left.
I did. I think I felt,
Is that?
I think I didn't know how to be in Black Pine Circle without Jana. And I didn't know really how to start over. And we've later now talked about how I had this perception or misperception that Jana, went on to have this exciting life at Willard and had all these new friends and social opportunities, and I was kind of left behind. And we've later talked about, she had her own insecurities about going to Willard, and it was not easy to be there. And of course, we were 13 and didn't know how to communicate about what we were feeling and what we were going through.
Yeah, and to be fair to Becca, I can see her perception because one night I called her after going to a party on Russell. I was in 8th grade and I had some beer at the party in 8th grade. My kids are hearing this for the first time. Yes, they're adults, but anyway. And I proceeded to get sick at the party. And so the first person I called was Becca. And I said, "Can you meet me at the gate?
Our gate.
I need help." And she probably thought because I was at I don't know who had the party, but it was through the Fun Bunch. For those out there who remember the Fun Bunch, shout out to the Fun Bunch. They were fun.
Shout out.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun, the Fun Bunch. Maybe too much fun.
Another Berkeley crew, huh?
And then Becca had to walk me to my house, and then my parents were like, "Well, you weren't drinking beer," because they said, "Why is Becca with you?" I said, "Oh, I wasn't feeling good." "Well, you weren't drinking, were you?" And I just looked at them and said, "No." And they totally bought it. And that was that.
You were at a party with these public school kids and you had separated. And when you got drunk at the party with the public school kids and you needed help, you called your best friend, Becca, to come help you, to meet you at your old stomping grounds, the familiar sight of someone you could trust, that's someone who you've been friends with forever. That was your attachment figure in your social circle. You knew you could trust her.
100%. Wasn't even a question.
What's interesting though is that she called me during a time when we weren't really hanging out or talking.
In 8th grade.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact that, and I think that when you talk about that core, that foundational sense of belonging, that even when you're fighting or not even hanging out, that you know that there is an unconditional part of it where you
Like
can't,
family.
you can come back to it, that I was going to show up for her in an emergency even if we were not getting along.
So you had this foundational friendship that did take care of each other from an early age, and you could depend on it when stuff went wrong and you were in a vulnerable position. It's a beautiful story, I think.
And that has definitely
I love it.
continued like all the way up to this date.
I don't see the literature talking about secure attachments to friends. They just talk about it to family and caregivers. But I think there is really something, as I've gone through this podcast, that I'm exploring, and certainly with my own experience, is this sense of attachment to our friends. And it's definitely seemed like you guys had that kind of secure attachment like early on. And then, of course, in all families, we also have to have a rebellion and we have to have a break and an independence. And it sounds like that actually happened to you guys at the sort of the time that it would happen with family, is to break apart and forge your independence.
Yeah, that's super interesting to me because I also have not seen that in the literature, that idea of attachment in friendship. There's a lot about it in romantic relationships now, right? And what attachment style you bring to a romantic relationship. But that really is so true that we were sort of a secure base. We definitely broke away and had to have conflict to individuate from each other. And then towards the end of high school, I remember there wasn't any event or thing that happened, but we just started reconnecting again and coming back together and in
Parties at your house. I remember one
Yeah.
party at your house, one party at my house, junior and senior year. For the people who don't like to break rules, we were breaking rules.
Yeah, well, we had fun. We managed to have fun. And it was, now we were both, I think, more secure in our identities. It was later on in high school. We both had really close other friends. So we didn't depend on each other in the way that I think we did early on. And we could be comfortable being separate and together.
I went away myself in ninth grade because we were all feeding into this West Campus. And I came from a divorced family where my dad didn't live here, and he lived in DC at the time. And so I went to DC, and it actually was suburban Maryland. So it wasn't an urban place. It was a suburban place. And I loved my father. He was a great dad. Actually, I preferred him as a parent for many reasons. Yet I spent 1 year there and I felt no sense of belonging. And I had to come back to Berkeley. I was like, I'm sorry, Dad. I love you and all, but I got to go back to Berkeley. I got to go back to my secure base. And I had some friends coming into Berkeley High, but I sat down in the community theater at the orientation. And
community theater.
That's right.
So great for the Juice the Jackets or whatever.
Yeah.
What was that?
Oh, the Spirit Week.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the Spirit Week. It was orientation, but I sat right down next to Maurice Howell. And he was the first guy I sat next to. And it was Jory Blomberg, who was a Northsider. And I had known him from a camp earlier in our childhood. So I sort of dapped up Jory and I was like, oh, what's up, Jory? Da, da, da. And then I sat in a long line of Northsiders and I sat right next to Reese and LaRue and David Che. And these guys are my foundational friendships. I have so many stories about how they helped me and how we stayed together and how we navigated crazy times and scary times. And, wow. I mean, I just don't, I have so many stories about how they helped me feel secure, and they saw me. They recognized me for who I was. And I was, we all were unique. But I was able to really spread my unique qualities, and they appreciated me for it. And I'll never forget them for it. Becca, you said you insisted that your family send you to Berkeley High. I was curious about that. Why did you insist?
And sis, well, I think, I was really, I felt I was not happy in middle school at all. I felt like it was just too small
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, kind of stifling. And I also, it was a very, very academic place.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember not feeling a sense of belonging. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember starting to question my intelligence, and maybe I wasn't as smart as these other kids, and really was not feeling like I fit in there. And I felt just really the need to stretch. I mean, what's the expression? Spread your wings. Like I really needed that. And my parents somehow perceived it as risky for me to go to Berkeley High. And I specifically remember my mom saying it's dangerous there and people get shot. And, and
It was.
I,
It was an urban school, right? I mean, we all know this, and parents got anxious about that urbanness, although they let you ride the AC Transit to your elementary school. But
they weren't
somehow
worried about that.
this urban
Yeah.
school that we all fed into, if you go to public school, was urban. And it had all the urban issues that all urban schools have, right? Because Berkeley is a small town and a big city all rolled into one. It's got this, interesting relationship the town does to the university, obviously, but there's urbanness, and there always was, and more. It's certainly changed over time, but I certainly understand the anxiety that parents have about sending their little children or their naive sense of naive children to these big schools. But you had confidence, obviously, because you wanted to go.
I
Felt unsafe.
no, I never did.
Yeah, me neither.
I did. I had a lot of, I did have well, I don't know if I had confidence that I wanted it, but I know I felt very scared to go. And like I said, it was really the best decision and the most transformational experience that I could have imagined. And it really, talk about helping me find my identity there, and was very humbling for me to go and start over and to make new friends, and to find my way academically there, and that was another thing my parents really underestimated, the academic rigor that you could find at Berkeley High, which I absolutely did. I think I got an amazing education there. Yeah, so, and of course, my parents thought they were so happy about my experience there that they sent my brother there. My brother ended up going there too.
Nice.
And it's such a big part of, I feel like, of my connection to Berkeley,
Mm-hmm.
and my sense of belonging in the community of Berkeley has a lot to do with Berkeley High School.
Yeah, you said it was seminal in your sort of education, but also in your social development. Can you say more about that?
So I had many friends who were in the grade younger, and I was a June birthday, which now, like middle of June.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, yeah, for sure. I was social, like maturity wise, I should have been held back. Anyway, so I had a lot of great friends in the grade below. And I'm going to just call myself out now. It's so embarrassing. Guess what? At the end of high school in the yearbook, my award was
Your word?
award.
Award.
You know how they would give you like something in the high school yearbook?
Right.
Freshman hustler.
Oh.
And what does that mean?
It's because I dated the guys 1 year younger, a lot of them.
I see.
And I was friends with a lot of the girls in that grade. And so my moniker, that's what I got, freshman hustler, which I remember being mortified about and got so much shit for it. And now I'm laughing about
I
it.
think I was runner-up for class flirt. So.
Nice. Oh, now that brings up a whole other part of your life and through high school. So you were flirty, huh, Becca?
I was.
Oh, yes.
A
Yes.
little flirty. Yes.
A little flirty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good for you. Sowing wild oats is definitely part of high school.
Spreading joy. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
Becca's always had a confidence that I've always admired, because not blaming ADHD, but there's a self-esteem issue attached that comes along with it for the journey.
Oh, fuck. So you see me that way.
Oh, I do.
Oh.
What's hard for me is that I was not diagnosed at the time, but my dad and my brother were. Sorry, dad and brother, if they didn't want me to share that. With ADD in the 1980s. So this was before it was like, to this day, I've always been immature. Like, I own it. It's who I am. I am young at heart. I just don't age. Like in my inside
Or outside.
Yeah. Oh, let's get to that story.
Okay.
Let's just call you playful.
Yes, playful. And I one lovely attribute of ADHD is that you're not present in the moment. And so it's really hard to remember things. And so I don't have, like, I remember the way people made me feel, some good friends, like Allison Swift, I adored.
Nice.
And
how did you feel with her?
I felt a real closeness to her. I can't tell you if it was all 4 years. It was definitely the first two.
Mm-hmm.
Later or mid high school, Jenny Hunter, Maria, Jenny got me into horses, and I'm 53 and now very much into horses.
Oh, that's right. I remember her, and I remember her horsemanship.
Horses too,
right? Jenny lives in Idaho on a farm with. I've seen her now 3 times. They've had dinner. She has, llamas, rescue horses, cats, dogs, and when I say cats and dogs, I mean like a lot.
Yeah.
She's a good human.
She's an animal person, and probably was an animal person back then. That's another thing about Hometown Friends that I think is really interesting, you guys, and maybe you can help me with this. But you start to see these people's interests even back then. I mean, I definitely wanted to be a psychologist. In fact, I did you, Becca? Tell us how you began to think that you wanted to be a psychologist.
When we were 8 and 9?
Well, actually, I think when my mom recalls that I was 10 years old and said, I'm going to be a clinical psychologist. And I don't know how I knew that term, because this was also before we went to clinical psychologists very often. But I think it was, for me, I was always passionate about young children, and I loved babysitting. I felt like I was good at it. I felt like I still feel like I can connect with kids really easily. Jana's the same.
That's what we shared in common.
And I was also very fascinated by child development and learning and behavior and personality at a very, very early age. So once at Berkeley High, I remember, I don't think they offered psychology, but I knew that I wanted to pursue psychology in college and I was a psych major.
Nice.
So was I. In child development was my focus.
There you go. From babysitting on Forest Avenue to child development, teaching. I know, Jana, that you were a teacher.
Kindergarten, teacher, and then a math coach,
And then for Becca, you're a clinical psychologist with a focus on children and adolescents, correct? It's amazing.
Yeah, I specialized in pediatric psychology, and now, though, I've really branched out, so I see everyone. I see the whole age range.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my specialty area and my passion.
It's amazing how these early experiences stay with us.
I mean, I remember some of my teachers at Berkeley High were the best teachers that I ever had. I think really spectacular educators, and that even goes for when I was in college. And that, I mean, and part of what I loved about Berkeley High was social, but like I said, I really felt like I got very engaged academically. I had some really outstanding teachers. Miss Small was the Latin teacher. And I took 4 years of Latin, and then their English teachers, Miss Clayton and Mr. Bai, were really,
Mr. Bai was outstanding.
I remember.
And Mr. Rose, he taught public speaking.
Yeah, and English.
He made an impact on me, Mr. Rose.
Fantastic.
And,
Mrs. Rubin, Nancy Rubin. They did a documentary on her. So
what a great classroom to have, and what a great teacher to educate us about real life and about sex and about biases and about politics and about conversations, hard, difficult conversations that we all got to have and practice that. I thought that was one of the most outstanding classes.
The class was almost like group therapy,
Yeah.
too. Do you remember? Did we sit in a big circle?
We
Yeah, we
did.
did.
We
Yeah.
sat in a big
Or
circle.
a semicircle.
And I remember, just having to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
which is at 15 is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
I think.
And then remember, we would write our letters to ourselves. Did you
Yes,
guys
I
remember
remember
getting
the
your
letter,
letters?
yeah.
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 I sent mine too
I
soon.
still have mine.
Do you?
I think my letter was full of insecurities. I think that that's part of what we were able to reveal in that class are the typical sort of teenage insecurities that we all had, that you wouldn't necessarily know, from looking at the outside, right?
It's also it's a great intervention in a classic intervention I think of now is imagining your future self and talking to your future self.
I do think ADHD robbed me of so much because I think I was always behind the 8 ball. I didn't have the ability to look ahead and think about who I would be. It was always like things just happened and then I would just go to the next step.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of sadness when you look back and sort of that statement that you got robbed of something that you really thought you deserved. Your brain sort of somehow betrayed you in some way.
When I read, I've become more aware of all the things about it,
Yeah.
the aspects of it, and it really,
Yeah.
I check every box, and it's frustrating. I would say it's frustrating because looking back, like I rely on Becca for memory.
Yeah, you said in your survey that you really admire Becca because of the shared memories and the sort of her ability to keep your memories. And I think that's what friends do for each other, especially these foundational ones who we go back with a long time. Then there's a lot of memories to keep. And as you said, and when people die, like when partners die or when they go away or we break up with them, we lose not only that person, but we lose some of those memories.
The other thing that is also just the implicit memory. Like when we're together now, we very quickly, I think, become 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, like this person who has known you through all these different phases of your life. And we can quickly, right, become we fall into a routine with each other.
It's a banter. And we give each other, I know how to push her buttons better than she does. Yeah. Like, I know how to push her buttons. In fact, let's give that great example now.
Oh my gosh. Jana will not let this podcast go without telling the story that she's so proud of.
Okay, let's give you a platform.
But it's an example of how you could not behave the way I'm being so obnoxious with just anybody, but you can be obnoxious with somebody that's like family.
Yes.
She likes to tease me about how I'm older than her by 3 months. And
because it bugs her. It actually bugs her, so it's wonderful.
Really? It's kind of funny. But then, so we went to this John Legend concert in the spring.
About a year ago.
And we're walking in. Okay, so we're both 52, 53 years old, and we're walking into the show. And
we decided to get snacks.
We decided to get a drink, an alcoholic beverage at the and they're carding people like by looking at them and deciding whether they should be carded. Now, of course, we should be. I mean, we do not look like we're under 21, but
we weren't even aware of it, really. We just walked in the line. Well, I didn't even know what that guy was doing.
So at the same time, he flags me and says, he waves me through and stops Jana and says, "I need to see ID." So
Good
she
job,
was
Jana.
That lies.
You look young.
And then the reason why she teased me is that
She was angry.
I went back to him and I said,
Wait.
wait, you need to
No.
see her ID, but not mine? Don't you
She
need
confronted the guy.
Hey, buddy,
She,
I'm underage too.
and then he says to me, he's like, well, I'll look at it if you want me to.
So actually, let's talk more about that, you guys, because one of the things that I asked on the podcast interview and the questionnaire was, who do you admire? What are your hometown friends you admire? And I think you might have even mentioned other people, but I'm curious, and it's one of my favorite parts of this podcast. What do you guys admire about each other?
she just always had this security, this self confidence that I didn't have. And remember, I mean, I don't do this anymore, but I would always put myself down. Always.
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to stop doing that. But Becca, yeah, but Becca just always had this quiet confidence about her that I really admired. And then also, she was such a huge figure in my, especially, well, both my child's lives, but especially the first one, because she lived a block away when Kate was, I don't know, born to for the first 5 years. And so Kate was really lucky because she got raised by both of us. And she was, yeah, and she was getting her psychology degree. So who could ask for better?
A child development expert helping you
Exactly.
raise your kids.
And I would call her. There would be issues that would come up. And to this day, I cite something Becca told me to other people, which is because anxiety comes up a lot. And I said, oh, I called my best friend, the psychologist, when my daughter was 7, and she was going through this weird kind of ritual before bed, having to say goodnight in the same way to all the same people. And when I asked my daughter why, she said, because you might not be here when I wake up. Becca's words were so helpful. She said, the degree to which it impacts her life is how you will know if you need to intervene or not. And I've applied that so many times. I've helped so many people with that just simple statement because it immediately put me at ease. Okay, this is definitely a sign of anxiety, let's see where it goes. And it never got much worse than that. It didn't impact her day-to-day life. And I've helped other people with that statement. So thank you.
It really soothed you. It really, that statement was a soothing, parenting, wise statement of someone you could really trust.
Yeah, I mean, if every woman who has children for the first time could have like a Becca in their lives, they would be set.
Awesome.
Something that I really admire about Jana is that, I mean, she always was a very exceptional mom, parent. Yes. And she, that is an area that you had a lot of confidence in. You might have been insecure about other things.
Not as much teenage.
Okay.
Definitely 0 to 10. Give it to me.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Right. Well, I don't think any of us are confident parenting teenagers. I'm parenting 2 of them right now. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but
not the best. It really is.
Yeah. Talk about humbling. But Jana was very, I think it's easy for us to articulate what our values are in terms of how we want to raise children or what kind of qualities we want to instill in them. But Jana not only did that, but she acted accordingly, was in a very confident, decisive way, and was such a great balance, I think, of nurturing and warm and loving, but also did not hesitate to set appropriate boundaries and limits. And I mean, you'd see her girls are 25 and 22 now, right? And both incredible young women. Yeah.
I love that you admire each other for different things and that you gave each other different areas of expertise and that you stayed connected with each other, that you had this rift through early middle school, and then you had this rapprochement, and that you stayed connected and that you always had a sense of family relationship together. And that this is such a meaningful friendship because it goes so far back and you have so much comfort and you can be your authentic self with each other with no judgment, even when there is teasing and ridicule. And it's really, I love that we're using this secure base, and you're really helping me articulate that, Becca, but that this person we can always return to, that is, we know is going to be in our corner. That's always going to help us through the hard times, and we're going to enjoy the like just menial tasks with, and then the good times are just even better. Yeah.
Absolutely, like chosen family. And I would add just that she's the guardian of my kids, and that was something I took very, very seriously. That's always a horrifying thing
too,
for
right?
parents to think about, when they're making their will, and you think, ooh, when you have young kids, especially and babies, you're like, I can't, who would I let raise my babies? So that just also speaks to the confidence I had, and also just who would know me, who would be
Yes.
able to
Make
know
sure,
me well enough to bring a piece of me if I were tragically gone, who could raise my kids with me
Yes.
in mind.
And I would.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd make sure they knew all the
Oh, good,
stories.
good.
They would probably also roll their eyes about how many stories, and of course be extremely appreciative of you keeping each other alive, and of course you keep each other alive all the time right now in as you're in life, and you stay connected because you wanted to be on this podcast and you wanted to talk about your friendship, and it's so meaningful to you. We have to wrap up, but tell maybe any last words about this experience.
I'm super grateful for this experience because I'm just your survey, and then in preparation for the podcast, I've just been doing so much thinking and reflecting on it. And I think, even I've never sat down and thought about our friendship.
Never.
And I haven't, I mean, there's a lot that just we've assumed also, or we just never have talked about, like the rift that happened between us, and tried to understand it from the perspective of adults, and have compassion for our young
Yes.
teenage selves and what we were going through, and just being just being aware of all of that has been really enlightening, and I'm grateful for that opportunity.
I'm sorry, Chandler, but you do look the same to me. Like my memory of you was always like,
That's not, I'm sorry. That's good,
All right.
right?
I know it's
I'll
good.
take it as a compliment.
Like, yeah, it is a compliment. Like you are somebody whose face has not changed at all. And what I remember about you is how you always smiled.
Yeah.
Like you are just the happy guy.
Well, it's been so great connecting with you guys, sort of really personally, and developing our new friendship, if you will, or a much more deeper friendship, and having you guys talk about your friendship. It's heartening. It's inspiring. I can't get enough of this kind of conversation. I could do it all day long. My business went way down last year after coming up with this idea, but I'll get back to my business, but doing my own psychology stuff. But I'm going to keep doing this podcast because I really enjoy the conversations, and I want to thank you both for participating and spending time with me, and just sharing your stories and your friendship. It's just inspiring and beautiful. So thank you.
And shout out to your neighbor up the street, Jenny Sitkin, who went to Black Pine Circle with us.
Nice.
And
Nice.
had some really nice afternoon general hospital sessions.
Love it. Love it. Well, thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
Let's end right now, but thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chandler.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Hometown Friends. I enjoyed speaking with these women and going down memory lane with them, but moreover, getting an opportunity to discuss how meaningful this friendship has been to them. The part of the discussion that really sticks out to me was the conversation about the core dynamics of psychological attachment and how these dynamics operate within friendships. Early childhood peer relationships offer one of the first opportunities for children to practice relational skills outside of the parent-child dyad. Robert Selman's stages of friendship development demonstrate how children slowly build the ability to take others' perspectives, engage in reciprocal emotional sharing, and navigate conflict and repair, skills that mirror healthy attachment processes. Hometown friendships, in particular, often serve as a kind of secondary secure base, Like caregivers, friends from childhood offer both safety and permission for exploration. These friends become emotional co-regulators. They witness us as we navigate school challenges, family tensions, first crushes, and identity formation. Their presence creates a social buffer against stressors, and their consistent availability fosters an experience of being emotionally held. Mary Ainsworth's concept of a secure base is easily applied here. As early childhood friendships evolve into adolescence, these attachment dynamics progress, and we often see a breakup or an individuation, which allows for the identity formation during the pre-adolescent and adolescent years to take shape. Other peers and new friendships become critical for self-definition, helping youth navigate autonomy and encourages trying on new identities. Jana's story of calling Becca when she drank too much alcohol at a party, even at a time when they were not particularly close, exemplifies that these friendships are like the relationship between a child and their caregiver, as it provided Jana a trusted relationship where she could be vulnerable and that Becca provided her with the emotional grounding she needed. A process not unlike what we psychologists would often see in a secure attachment cycle. Even children with insecure attachments to their caregivers can experience corrective emotional experiences through stable, trustworthy friendships that serve as compensatory attachment figures. And hometown friendships often endure across decades precisely because they are rooted in these early attachment patterns. They hold not only our shared memories, but also our emotional imprints. When we reconnect with childhood friends later in life, we often experience a remarkable feeling of emotional safety, as if reuniting with a version of ourselves that remembers how we were once fully seen and accepted. Friendships like family provide the relational scaffolding that allows for us to feel safe enough to risk growth, exploration, and self-expansion. This podcast series rests on the powerful truth. While families form the initial template of attachment, peer relationships continue this developmental work throughout the life, offering profound sources of resilience, identity, and enduring belonging. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And please like, subscribe, and share our channels with your friends. Stay tuned and stay connected.
We fall down, but we get up.